What does it mean to digitize government? And can we reap the benefits without sacrificing privacy? Hi, I'm Tanya Hall for ZDNet, and joining me is Jonathan Reichental. He is the Chief Information Officer and Chief Technical Officer for the City of Palo Alto, California. Welcome, Jonathan.
Hi there.
So, what is the scope of your responsibility exactly for Palo Alto?
Yeah, a lot of people don't know why cities have chief information officers or chief technology officers. What's happened is technology, just like almost every other industry and organization, has moved to the center of the action. So it's grown in importance. My role is, number one, to be an advisor to our leadership. So in a city context, that's the elected officials. And then to be a trusted advisor to our executive team. And then after that, it's about making things happen, making sure that our systems work every day, and also to drive a very progressive innovation agenda. So that's what keeps me excited every day. This is great work.
You've been in this role for what now, 5 years? Is that right?
Well, although I can't believe it, in fact, I just passed 6 years. I understand the average tenure of a CIO in the United States right now is about 4.8 years. So I'm an overachiever on this one.
Well, that's good to be an overachiever. In fact, you set a pretty high bar for yourself when you first took the role and in saying that you wanted to build and enable a leading digital city. So explain what it meant back then and what does it look like now?
Yeah, I have to say at the time when I coined that tagline, I wasn't entirely sure what a digital city was. I mean, I had a sense of it. Uh, Anyone who's ever dealt with government, and that's almost every one of us, you've probably had to fill out a form, a paper form, maybe in triplicate, submitted it to somebody. It's very inefficient, and paper gets lost. You can't do searches very easily. So digitization is a very big deal, and there's a lot of processes to digitize. So I wanted us to have a pretty bold vision. I wanted us to have a stretch set of goals, and to really think differently about how can you deliver a government services, how can you deliver a city and all the services that go with that differently. And I knew we were going to bring technology into the center of that action, and so we created this pretty bold vision and a set of projects and initiatives around those. And I've been pleased. We've had a lot of success with the ambition we've had. We've had some setbacks, and we've learned from that. But fundamentally, what it is about is thinking differently about effectively a type of organization that hasn't changed in a very long time. And as communities, we know this. I mean, we have experiences when we get our driver's license, or when we want to get our birth certificate, or we sit in traffic. These are all things that we experience every day that we're troubled with, and they all need to be rethought and reinvented. And so that's the bold vision. It's still underway. I don't know that it'll be done anytime soon. Technology is changing fast. Even community expectations are changing. Right now, it's not only is it about creating a leading, creating and having a leading digital city, but it's about having a smart city and a connected city, and so we're kind of even evolving how we think about the future.
This is still a relatively new concept when you think of cities in general. So, were there any cities that you looked at as models, or are there any mentors that you looked for to set some sort of bar for yourself, for example?
Yeah, well, you have to leverage the insights and experiences of others, and so clearly we want to do that. And I'm surrounded by great people in our city and in cities like San Francisco and San Jose, and you don't have to go too far to see big cities at work and cities that are trying to rethink how to deliver to their communities. The difference with the city of Palo Alto is we have a very big name, but we're a small city. I mean, we definitely have a footprint that is bigger than our actual size. And so when you look at cities of our size, which are a little bit less than 100,000 people in terms of population who live in them, there wasn't a lot in the world that we could point to and say, that's who we want to be. When we kicked off this journey about 6 years ago, we were sort of one of the first for a city of our size. And I think what has happened is we've continued to lead. And so we want to be sort of the model that others follow, right? And so we don't have a lot of other smaller cities to look to say they're just getting it really right now. The good news story, I think, for our communities is that this is happening more and more. And I see some very neat things happening in Europe, in communities around the United States, in Asia, in Australia. It's, you know, the digital and connected communities phenomena is a global phenomena. I think in terms of just cities generally, I do think San Francisco is doing some really good things in terms of the United States. New York City, by the way, I know I'm going to, my colleagues around the world who may watch this will say, why didn't he mention my city? You know, so I apologize in advance. But great things being done in Vienna, Austria, very impressive. Melbourne, Australia, Singapore, of course, where they are super focused on this idea of a smart nation. I think London is beginning to pick up, and France. So in terms of South America, Ecuador is really committed to some neat things. Colombia, and I actually was really impressed with Kuala Lumpur and the Selangor area of Malaysia. I think they have been hiring and making some investments that is showing results now.
You know, one of the common factors in urban areas, especially, is the concept of approaching people movement in the city, whether it's traffic lighting, public transportation, self-driving cars, which is inevitably in our future, real-time signage, and parking. You know, how are you approaching the movement of people?
I would say that transportation is probably one of the top 3 priorities for us. And it's in the top 5 for almost every city around the world. I mean, our transportation systems are effectively broken. Yesterday, I had to drive 32 miles from Palo Alto to a place called Pleasanton. It took me 3 hours. You know, it's broken, really broken. So we got to rethink not only our existing systems, the existing road network we have, how our traffic signals work. I think we have to think differently just about moving people. We have to think about things like better public transport, alternatives like bicycles, and the on-demand economy. We have to think about not traveling in our cars alone. In America, we love to be in our car by ourselves. And you know, you're probably driving from your home to the office, and there are 3 other people you could carry with you, and you'd reduce 3 cars off the street. We think about the fact that gas-powered cars are the leading contributor towards greenhouse gas emissions in Northern California, and and it's impacting the climate. I mean, it's scientifically now conclusive if you believe the evidence. And so we want to see cars convert to electric, and it's starting to happen. It's slow. We need to have a lot of competition in the electric car market, and we haven't had that historically. We also are concerned about the distances we can go with an electric car. We need to have electric cars that go as far as our gas-powered cars. We're beginning to think about what do we need to do to support self-driving vehicles, because they're coming. And I'm bullish on this. I think that a world in which largely cars drive themselves, we do reduce congestion. We certainly will reduce accidents. Today, 1.4 million people die every year in car accidents globally. We need to fix that. I think self-driving cars won't crash near as much, and so that alone is a motivation. So when we think about what we can do, well, we can start by, for example, providing transportation data to the car companies and the car innovation companies. We can start to make available testing areas, because these car companies, they want to They want to have their self-driving vehicles in real areas, like where there's real sort of real life dynamics. It's one thing to have it in a lab or in a parking lot or in the desert, but it's another thing to have these cars drive around places where there's humans and bicycles and trucks and things. We think also about the implications. We'll be able to potentially design our city differently when there's self-driving cars. We may not need traffic signals because, frankly, self-driving cars don't care about traffic signals, and they'll negotiate around each other more efficiently. There's social implications. I mean, we're going to see the displacement of a lot of workers who rely on driving cars, truck drivers, delivery, and all the peripheral organizations that support that ecosystem. So we're looking at, in the US alone, millions of people being impacted by the transition to alternative transportation. Real big topic. And you can see we need innovation. We need solutions across a large array of different problems.
Absolutely. I think, it is very complicated, to your point, all of the different, aspects of our community that will have an impact over self-driving vehicles, but that's in our future. Something that you mentioned was, what other cities are doing, and health and air quality specifically is actually killing people in many other cities across the world. What are we doing in the way of, and in your community, where does health play in? And is there some sort of air quality or water quality or sanitation effort?
Yeah. In fact, we have as one of our city priorities to be a healthy community. And in this past year, in 2017, we won a number of awards for our efforts. Health is a very broad topic in a community. It includes the obvious: disease or disease management, preventative care. It includes things like looking after older populations and younger populations, but it includes how people feel. Are people optimistic? Are they lonely? Are they depressed? To what degree is depression a part of your community? And what is the role of a city in helping facilitate a more comfortable life, a higher quality, like having parks, beautiful open parks, having libraries, having culture and rich activities like theater and things for children and teenagers to do. So we think of health very broadly. You named a couple of areas that are very topical too, which is the quality of air. Now, I have to say we're pretty lucky in Northern California. We don't have the challenges that a lot of people have around the world. But sometimes, even when it's clear and it feels good, the problems are things we can't see. The particulates are tiny. So we're looking at having air quality sensors to begin to understand the air quality. One of the things that is probably obvious as you think through this topic, though, something like air quality is never just about one city. In fact, it has to be regional, right? And it has to be county-based, maybe state-based, and ultimately, the quality of air really matters to our country. So we do rely on other parties, other participants. There's lots of NGOs which their core focus is air quality, and we work as partners with them. In addition, water quality, such an important topic. And it's not just the quality of water, which is number one. It's making sure that the water that does flow from the reservoirs makes it to your home, right? Some of our systems are so old and so poorly maintained that they leak. There's countries in the world where anywhere from 70 to 90% of the water actually never makes it to a human because it leaks along the way. So there's the emergence of some very good sensor technology, which can begin to detect leaks and create a way for engineers to pinpoint where that problem is, so you're not having to dig up vast areas to try to fix the problem. We have a good water system here in Palo Alto. It's not necessarily something we lose sleep over, and I think the city's very proud of that. But we have, we invest in our water quality plant and our sanitation here. It's a continual thing. And the technologies to help with it are improving as well.
Sounds like you're collecting a lot of data, which is helpful and good. And we're certainly in an age of being having an opportunity to look and analyze data. But I guess my question then would be, how do you balance the rights of freedom of individuals with mass efforts to fixing things like traffic and air quality in your city?
Yeah, I take my job very seriously. I'm passionate about doing the right thing. I know my colleagues are. I know our leadership is, and you we have a very big debate right now and ahead of us around privacy. There are lots of unanswered questions. I mean, we see all the benefits of making and sharing information, but we also realize that uh, there's a responsibility in how that information could be misinterpreted or used. Stuff that, for example, the utility information and infrastructure information of Palo Alto could be used by people who want to do us harm, right? And we think, well, this information is useful to a whole range of stakeholders, but it's also potentially risky for us to share it. And then you get all these sensors now that are doing things like counting traffic or making the traffic signals, the traffic systems work better, and they require camera technology. So we're potentially capturing people's faces and without their knowledge, and so we have to incorporate new technology that blurs faces, but we get all the benefits of all the other information, right? Um, I think the challenges here are going to get harder, not easier, as we effectively censor the environment with all sorts of sensors, from cameras to other things that are monitoring so many aspects of our infrastructure, including us as people who are in that population. When we are looking to make data available to a requester or to our open data portal efforts, we have a pretty rigorous checklist that we go through. Now, we don't create one that's so bureaucratic we never release any data, but we want to make sure that we check what are the impacts, and we look at the legal consequences of what we're releasing. We look at regulations. We have our emergency operations director look at it from an emergency perspective. And we go through these until such time as we're comfortable that we've done to the best of our ability what is right to protect people's rights and to protect the city. But I think that this is a tough topic for city leaders and for CIOs who are part of cities. This is probably one of the reasons why we're hiring data people, data scientists, and why this topic is so popular. Cities are now hiring chief data officers. I've hired our first data scientist here at the city of Palo Alto just for these for all these sorts of reasons.
Well, I'm certainly impressed with the work that you're doing. That's very complicated and evolutionizing a city like Palo Alto, even though you have lots of talented civically responsible people. I know it's been a big challenge for you, and you've done a fantastic job. And I really appreciate you sharing some of those insights with us. If somebody wants to connect with you, maybe find out more about what you're doing in making a smarter city, how can they do that?
I think the best way and lowest overhead is Twitter, and it's at Reichental, at Reichental. I do publish a lot of content in various forums. LinkedIn is one of my platforms. I do a lot of training videos through lynda.com, which is also part of LinkedIn, where I talk about the future of cities and of blockchain and data and a whole lot of other topics. But a good starting point, I think, is Twitter.
Absolutely. And you are very engaging. Thank you so much for joining us, like I said. And if you want to follow me and more of my interviews, you can do so right here on ZDNet or Tech Republic, or maybe follow me on Twitter at Tanya Hall Radio, or find me on Facebook by searching for The Tanya Hall Show. Thanks again, and until next time.